Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another deck profile. Today we're gonna go over the deck that I played for the set 14 SCR Showdown. This is King Cold hand control, so probably something you haven't really seen too much of. King Cold is not typically played as hand control. We'll talk about that more when we get into the video. If you guys are new here, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you never miss a video. And if you guys want to help support the channel, there are many links down in the description below. Particularly today, if you guys want some sweet art sleeves, make sure to use the link in the description to yourplaymat.com. Man, these sleeves they sent me are just absolutely incredible. Like, they're just super good quality. I love playing with them. You could put any design you want on these things. Again, use the link down there. You will get 10% off your order. And in this video, you guys can see how Italian I am because how much I'm talking with my hands. But anyways, all right, we'll get into this. So building this deck was kind of weird for a few reasons. So I clearly did not play the standard type of King Cold, right? And there's a reason for that. I think regular, like typical King Cold you see in most events is really good at punishing some of the current meta decks because they take a lot of their life really quickly. You have like Mecha Frieza, Dark Broly being the main two examples of that, and a few other decks here or there. But yeah, Bojack is not one of those decks. So the typical like double strike, triple strike beatdown that King Cold does normally was not going to work. Normally against a deck like Bojack or a very stally blue deck like even Blue Baby for a more meta example, King Cold's going to do very poorly against. And because of the way the SCR Showdown was structured, we pretty much knew the matchup we were going into, and I knew I had to build the deck a certain way to even have a shot of beating a deck like Bojack, because Bojack again is not the type of deck where you know, you're taking your life very quickly, you're playing a fast game, you're playing a very slow control-y game. So I needed to build King Cold in a way to combat that. So this is gonna be a very different build of King Cold. We will get into it, but with the leader real quick, guys, essentially the leader and the field card do a combination of things that allow you to play multiple field cards. They make the field cards cost 1, and even though they're printed as 2 costs, basically this field card has to exist because there's so much text on it that wouldn't just fit on the leader. But we do get to awaken at 4 life and untap 2 energy. A lot of King Cold decks you'll see want to awaken on turn 2. This one in particular wants to awaken on turn 3, actually. At least I think that's the best way to do it. You can awaken turn 2 and it can be okay. But I think awakening turn 3 with this hand control version of the deck is really good, and I will explain why. But first, let's get into the curve of the deck so you guys can see what we're trying to do here. So for our field card lineup, we're playing 4 new ruler. This is a very good turn 1 play if you don't have the super ideal turn 1 play, which we will get to in a second. But we're also playing 2 copies of Terrified Realization. This one is great because it does just draw you a card and allows you to self-awaken if you want to. Problem is though, like, this isn't really a field card you get value out of using your leader's activate battle, which says once per battle, or once per turn rather, during a battle, you can pop one of your field cards to give him plus 10k. A lot of the field cards have effects when that happens, except for Terrified Realization. So really, when you play Realization, you want to leave it on the board. The plus 5k for the Frieza army cards is nice. Doesn't really come up all that often because, again, you will be popping your field cards off in order to use your leader's activate battle. And New Ruler is one of the best ones. When you pop it off, you do get to draw a card and discard a card, which for the hand control version of this deck is really good. I just want to leave New Ruler out here for a second because it's one of the possible turn 1 plays. So when we get to the curve, I can explain more of that. So we are also playing 3 copies of Unstoppable Invasion. This just gives our leader double strike, great for clearing unisons. This also, when it's removed from the board, does take a marker off of unison. So that's really nice as well to give you a little bit more of that control aspect. But overall, King Cold is just super reliant on the field cards, which makes it good and bad, to be honest. Like, if you don't snowball your field cards, and what I mean by snowball is if you don't like have a good chain of field cards early, and your game kind of goes a little bit too slow because of that, you can have a really bad time. But the field cards are really good in what they do. So here's the most optimal turn 1, at least for me. 4 copies of Anticipated Onslaught and 4 copies of Berry Blue Frieza's Advisor. These cards are all staple in King Cold no matter what build you're playing. That's really no surprise. But I did always want to see Anticipated Onslaught plus Berry Blue Frieza's Advisor on turn 1 so that my leader could take a life and draw a card. This would also draw a card, put Berry Blue in play, and then I would ideally have a new ruler for turn 2. And if I did not have a copy of my Unison in hand, King Vegeta Umbral Invader, I would hope to search it out with Berry Blue. but you could do this in a slightly different order. Like I mentioned before, the ideal turn 1 would be Anticipated Onslaught into Berry Blue, but if you already have your Unison in your hand and you don't have like maybe one of either of these cards, what you could do is you could do New Ruler on turn 1. That's actually going to let you see a lot of cards. You're going to take 2 life, 1 from your leader, 1 from New Ruler. You're going to draw off your leader, and you're going to get a top 3 search off of New Ruler. So you'll see 4 cards in that instance. So if I do this turn 1 and I already have this in my hand for turn 2, maybe or hopefully all off of the course of the cards I'm going to see at least, you know, the Anticipated Onslaught or the Berry Blue that I need. So this way, going into turn 2, I can play King Vegeta Umbral Invader, which will then allow me to play Onslaught for free, then play Berry Blue. So that's just like another order of doing things if you don't see the ideal curve. But that really was exactly what I wanted to have by at least turn 2. I wanted to have this guy in play on turn 2. And in the Bojack matchup, he has no incentive to attack me, right? So I really do have to make sure I can awaken myself when I need to. So that's why this is super important. And that's also another reason why I built the deck to be able to awaken on turn 3, is because by doing all those shenanigans, and if I'm never attacked, I'll be at 5 life by turn 2 when I do all that stuff, right? I'll have taken, you know, 2 life from 2 field card activations. New Ruler also lets me take a life, but Anticipated Onslaught does not. So with that in mind, I'll be on 5 life on turn 2. If I get attacked, sure, I can awaken turn 2 and do some other things, but that's just how I built the deck to operate. So we'll go into the rest of the deck here. And this is really the heart and soul of the hand control. So we are playing 4 Rebrand Punishing Passion, and we're playing 4 copies of Rosie Blast Manipulator. 4 of Rosie might seem like a lot, but the main reason I played 4 is because in testing, there were just a lot of times that I had to awaken without any proactive way to spend my energy. So that's why on every single turn 3, I wanted Rosie. So what I would do is on turn 3, I would want to ideally play a Rosie and then awaken. That gets me 2 energy back. And then with that, I can use a Rebrand. I can attack my leader, use the Activate Battle to pop off a New Ruler, which will then let me draw a card and discard a card. Then I can discard Rebrand. So with 5 energy, I discarded 4 cards out of my opponent's hand in an ideal world. That was the main curve. Like if you had to awaken on turn 2, you could do a very similar thing where you pop this off with New Ruler anyway and just do that. And then turn 3, play Rosie. So by knowing that, there are a lot of flexible ways that the deck can operate. It's just a matter of, you know, the cards you draw in your opener and the cards you're able to see by turn 2, turn 3. In all honesty, King Cold is not the best green deck to play if you really want to play hand control. Again, I just felt like I had to build the deck this way to even have a shot in the game. But if I was going to play hand control with any other green leader, it would honestly probably be OG Broly, Cell Surge, or even TN would be a lot better for hand control. King Cold doesn't house the hand control stuff too well, and there are some other hand control cards I could have maybe played, but fitting them in is really hard when you literally have to play all of this to you know, to make your deck work essentially. Again, a lot of these cards are quite good, but you have to play them to make your deck work, so it does get just a little bit awkward. But anyways, into the rest of the deck. Of course, you're playing 4 Frieza Charismatic Villain just to pair off with your Unison. It's one of the best counterplays in the game. And we are playing 2 copies of Zamasu DD's Wrath with a really excellent collector's art reprint here. This is a super beautiful card, going off on a tangent. But anyways, this was also a really good way to get some hand control going because DD's Wrath has the Indestructible, so he really can't be removed from the board by any conventional means. So with that in mind, you're able to just play Frieza, pop him off into a Zamasu, and this is supposed to help you with the attrition game. So definitely something I really enjoyed playing in the deck for sure. And we are playing 2 copies of Golden Frieza, Pinnacle of the Clan. As much as I think King Cold has a rough time against Bojack, this card is one of the saving graces because when they play their 8-drop Bojack, this is a main deck searchable answer to Barrier. This card is really good. There is like actually an inherent problem with this card though that is even relevant in the current meta. Like you can never like attack with this thing and use the activate main after the fact to get the full value. The main reason you can't do that is because against Mecha Frieza, they can, like, for instance, Vegeta's Final Flash this, so you lose the effect. Like you have to use this in active mode, and because it does actually restand itself with the activate main, but when you are not allowed to really get the full value out of that, it does feel pretty bad. And the Bojack matchup was similar because he had several ways during battle to like remove this thing. So I would have to like play it, use the activate main, unfortunately not get maximum value out of it, but it was still a really solid card for the matchup and just a good solid card in King Cold in general. And for negates, we're playing 3 copies of Royal Supremacy. This is normally just a natural 4 of in King Cold, but Bojack is not a super aggressive matchup. And again, this deck is built for a super specific format where you know the matchup you're playing against. It's only you versus one deck, so you're gonna build accordingly. Yeah, so 3 rules permanency because our opponent's not going to be super aggressive with Bojack, but we do want to have them at certain points in the game to make sure we can defend ourselves, and we can get value out of it by popping some 3 costs or less. We're also playing 3 copies of King Cold Supreme Ruler for similar reasons. It's just a really solid negate, especially in the late game where they're trying to push for game, and you're taxing them essentially for every single attack they want to get through. And then for super combos, we're playing 4 Paragus. This is obviously one of the best green super combos in the game, but I do kind of wonder if the Vegeta 1-drop, I think it's called the Lone Prince, I wonder if that super combo would have been really good in this deck because it would have just been more of the hand control aspect. Playing him to the board is a little bit scary because Bojack does actually have good 1-drop removal, so that might have not been the best, but otherwise this card was really solid. And then for our 2 kind of like big boy finisher cards, we are playing the Majin Buu SCR. Reason I included this is because it's green, so it is searchable off of New Ruler. Wasn't sure if my opponent was going to be playing the Pycon SCR or the Baby Hatch SCR, so I kind of decided to play this one. Plus, this can be fine paired with your Unison. I got to get the triple strike off on the Unison once, actually, I suppose. But regardless, this is good against Baby Hatch. It's good against, D Magic if you really want to push for game. It's not a bad card at all. I was contemplating Primal Carnage Bardock. I was contemplating Spring Kai of Time SCR. But I feel like this was a good one just because Baby Hatch is the best blue SCR. And then we played 1 copy of SS4 Bardock fighting against Fates. I really wanted to play Science's Fu, especially with that really new, really nice looking collector's art. But because Godsling Technique Trunks is a card, I didn't want to pay 1 energy to just have it bounce back to my hand and do nothing. So I decided to play the free, really strong Overwhelm. Maybe should have fit a Champa somewhere in the deck, but I kind of didn't feel like it was necessary. I kind of just felt like I had to get my hand control game plan going, otherwise I was going to lose anyway. And when your opponent doesn't have any cards in hand, it's a lot easier to actually win the game without Champa. But anyways, that's the deck, guys. Again, as far as hand control decks go, I would not recommend King Cold as the #1 option. There are definitely better hand control options, but I do think hand control is actually in a really strong place if the ban list goes the way it should, in the sense of neutering some of the really broken strategies. So yeah, I would definitely think about picking up some Rosies, picking up some Rebrians for sure, especially the reprint makes this thing super cheap. SCR Showdown was super fun. I want to shout out to Bandai and Eggman for Bandai for setting it up, Eggman for playing and having a great match. Shout out to my team because they're super supportive. They're just some of my best friends in the game and in life, so I really appreciate them. I really appreciate each and every one of you guys in the community for coming out to watch the SCR Showdown. I really do appreciate all the support, guys. You guys make the community worth making content for. I really do appreciate it. With that being said, guys, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next time.